the hidden spiritual mission only dark chosen ones can fulfill. There's a quiet moment before it begins. You feel it long before the world confirms it, that distant pull in your chest, that strange sense that you're not like the people around you, not better, not worse, just different. You walk through life like someone remembering a dream, one foot in this world, one foot in something ancient and unseen. That's the first whisper of your mission, but no one tells you that. No one explains why you've always felt the need to pull away, to withdraw, to question everything everyone else accepts, and because no one tells you the truth, you start to think something's wrong with you. But nothing is wrong. In fact, everything is finally starting to align. You are a dark chosen one, and your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. You weren't sent here to chase light like everyone else. You were sent here to walk directly into the dark, into the shadows of this world, the hidden pain of humanity, the systemic lies that are wrapped around our collective soul like chains. You came here with a key, a code, a mission so deep that even you forgot it for a while. But now the veil is thinning, the world is breaking open, and your soul is calling you back to the assignment you agreed to before you were born.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let me tell you something that will resonate at the cellular level. Not all missions are supposed to feel good. Some are designed to stretch you, to break you, to burn everything false out of you. And that's what your life has been. An initiation, a long, lonely, brutal initiation into a type of power most people could never hold. That's why your path has been marked by rejection, betrayal, loss, and silence. Not because you're cursed, but because the deeper your pain, the deeper your preparation. The darker your night, the stronger your light becomes. But it is not the kind of light that blinds. It's the kind that reveals. That's what makes you dangerous to illusions. You're not here to maintain the spiritual status quo. You're here to dismantle it. That's why the world has tried to silence you. That's why you felt resistance every time you tried to live small. Your soul was never designed to shrink. It was designed to disturb, to question, to interrupt. And your presence alone begins to shift people without a word. They feel you before they understand you. Some will be magnetized to your frequency because they've been waiting for someone like you. Others will retreat, afraid of what they feel rising within themselves when they're near you. You are the mirror that doesn't lie. And that's what makes your mission sacred, because it's not about you, it's about what moves through you. This isn't about becoming some enlightened teacher or gathering followers. It's about becoming so empty of ego, so full of frequency, that your very life becomes the message. Every heartbreak, every silence, every rage-filled breakdown, you weren't being punished, you were being purified. Your body was learning how to hold the truth without flinching. Your soul was being recalibrated to carry ancient codes that this world has long forgotten. And here's the most painful, beautiful truth. Your mission cannot be fulfilled by imitation. You cannot copy your way into power. You must remember it from the inside out. And the remembering comes not from books or courses or even gurus. It comes from the spaces where you've been cracked open, the nights where no one was coming, the mornings you rose anyway. It comes from the way your body holds grief like a compass, the way your silence speaks louder than sound, the way you know, without needing to explain, that this world is not as it seems. So let me ask you something that may burn a little. What if the life you've been taught to desire is the very thing blocking your mission? What if comfort is the real enemy? What if being accepted means being erased? You were not meant to be digestible, you were meant to be undeniable, and to reach that state, you must become comfortable with being misunderstood, with being questioned, with being alone. But here's the paradox. The more you accept your aloneness, the more you realize you've never been alone. Your guides, your higher self, your past lives, they've all been preparing for this exact moment, when you'd finally stop trying to be who the world told you to be and start remembering who you actually are. And when you do that, when you fully own the mission, you begin to notice strange things. Synchronicities speed up. You think of someone and they message you. You dream of symbols that show up the next day. You feel guided to places that open something dormant in you. This is not coincidence. This is the activation of your timeline. And with that activation comes responsibility. You must now learn to move with precision. Every choice matters. Every word carries frequency. Every relationship becomes a test of resonance. You are no longer just living, you are anchoring codes into the grid of humanity. Your life becomes a ritual. But the world won't always recognize what you're doing. That's part of the design. Because the mission of a dark chosen one is often invisible to the untrained eye. You're shifting fields by simply being in the room. You're breaking ancestral chains just by choosing differently. You're creating ripple effects across dimensions, and most of the time you'll have no external confirmation. This requires faith, not blind faith, but soul-deep faith. The kind that says, I know who I am even if no one else does. And when you reach this level of embodiment, the game changes. The universe begins to respond to you differently. You're no longer in survival mode, you're in creation mode. You stop chasing signs and become the sign. You stop asking for permission and become the permission. You move not with fear, but with fire. Because you finally understand this hidden spiritual mission was never about you being loved. It was about you becoming unshakable. You were never sent here to fit in. You were sent to tear the illusion apart. Most people don't understand the price of spiritual power. They think it's about meditating on mountaintops or reciting affirmations until life bends to their will. But you and I, we know better. We've lived the truth no one wants to admit. Real power costs everything false. And when you are a dark chosen one, you feel that cost in your bones, in your relationships, in the long empty nights when it seems like you're disappearing from the world you once knew. But you're not disappearing, you're dissolving everything that was never truly you. You're tearing down illusions, not only around you, but within you. And that tearing, that's sacred work. That's the mission. The illusion must be shattered. The illusion that we are small, that we are helpless, that we must obey in order to survive. This illusion is not just cultural, it's energetic. It's programmed into the matrix of human consciousness. And your soul volunteered to come here to disrupt it. But you didn't do it loudly at first. No, you were hidden, planted like a seed in the soil of dysfunction. You were placed into families, communities, jobs, and relationships that didn't reflect your essence. Why? Because the illusion had to be felt before it could be destroyed. You had to live inside the system to fully understand how deep the lie goes. But that understanding, hard-won through pain, loss, and betrayal, has forged something in you that no spiritual book can teach: the ability to detect falseness in a heartbeat. You've walked into rooms and felt the dishonesty in the air before anyone spoke. You've stayed silent as people played their roles, because part of your mission is to observe before you strike. But not strike in violence. Strike with energy, with the truth, with frequency so sharp it cuts through lifetimes of sleep. You were made to walk into temples built on lies and collapse them just by existing. And here's where it gets even more real. Once you begin to truly activate, you'll be tested. The illusion will fight back, not because it's alive, but because it's attached to the egoic structures of billions of people who are terrified of change. Your mission threatens their sleep, so they may call you dangerous, too intense, too radical, too different, and you must learn to hear those words and smile, because when the old world screams, it means the new one is coming through. And that new world, it starts with you. When you fulfill your mission, you don't just change yourself. You change the energetic blueprint for generations. You create templates. You create new timelines. You heal wounds that were never yours to begin with. And you do it not by force, but by frequency. You radiate alignment. And that alignment shakes loose every lie that was ever told. You don't have to shout. You don't have to convince. You simply stand in your truth, and the world begins to rearrange itself around you. But this path demands everything. It demands that you stop waiting for validation, that you stop looking for someone to save you, that you stop playing small so others can feel big. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to get honest. You have to sit in your own darkness and not flinch, because your darkness is not evil. It is the key. It is the part of you that holds the codes the world forgot, the rage, the grief, the hunger for truth. All of it is sacred. All of it is part of your mission. And the more you own it, the more you'll see the matrix glitch. People will start reacting to you differently. Systems will push back harder. But don't mistake resistance for wrongness. Resistance means you're finally vibrating off the frequency of the old world. And the old world doesn't go quietly. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to that keeps you digestible to a world that fears your power? That question, if you're honest, can change everything. You weren't sent here to be understood. You were sent here to be felt. You weren't sent here to heal everyone. You were sent here to awaken them. And awakening is rarely soft. It is raw. It is fire. It is the collapse of everything comfortable so the truth can finally breathe. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. And alignment is the most dangerous thing in a world built on distortion. So stop running from what you already are. Start walking like the storm you've been trying to hide. Your mission began the day you were born, but your fulfillment begins the moment you finally remember why the universe hides its greatest power in your pain and how to unlock it. You felt it, haven't you? That strange burning truth in the center of your chest, The sense that every time life breaks you, something deeper is trying to be born. That every disappointment, betrayal, and moment of abandonment wasn't random. That it all carried a kind of sacred weight. The world taught you to see pain as punishment, but the universe sees it as a portal, a hidden doorway, a test disguised as torment. And only the dark chosen ones are given the key to that doorway, not because we're special, but because we were willing to walk through fire without a map. If you're still here, still watching, still breathing with these words, then you've already passed the first test, survival. But the mission isn't just to survive, the mission is to alchemize. And this is where most people get stuck. They try to escape their pain. They try to numb it, outrun it, heal it into disappearance. But the dark chosen ones know. We don't escape pain. We enter it. We listen. We let it burn, and we learn how to shape it into power. Here's the paradox. Your greatest pain was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to define your sacred task. But not in the way trauma defines a victim, no, in the way volcanic pressure defines a diamond. Your pain points you toward the part of the collective you were sent here to heal, not through words, not through theory, but through energetic transmission. That's why your wounds are so specific. That's why your pain feels so personal. Because it is. You volunteered to take on the frequency that others couldn't carry. And your job, your sacred contract, is to transmute that energy into something divine. The universe hides its greatest power in your pain because that's the only place you'd be forced to dig deep enough to find it. If everything was easy, you'd never reach the part of yourself that remembers, you'd live on the surface, you'd swim in shallow waters. But the pain, it drags you to the bottom. And down there, in the pressure, the silence, the surrender, you find something unbreakable. The raw core of your soul, that part of you that doesn't care about approval, success, or appearances. That part of you that knows why you came. But to unlock this power, you must stop running from your story. You must turn and face the very moments you wish you could erase. The betrayal that shattered your trust. The family that never saw you. The heartbreak that split you in two. These are not just traumas. These are codes. And each one holds a lesson that cannot be learned in comfort. You are being asked to stop seeing yourself as a victim of these experiences and start seeing yourself as the alchemist of them. Ask yourself, what if every wound was the exact crack the light needed to enter? Once you begin to see pain this way, your energy shifts. You move differently. You stop flinching in the face of discomfort. You stop needing constant reassurance. You start trusting yourself. Not the self the world shaped, but the self you've uncovered beneath the rubble. This self is ancient. It doesn't operate on logic. It moves in frequency. And once it activates, it becomes your compass. And here's where your mission becomes real, not just personal, but planetary. The pain you've transmuted becomes a tool. When others are drowning, you become the quiet presence that holds them steady. When the collective loses its way, you become the signal, not by fixing, but by embodying. You've become the map by living your truth. And others will begin to feel it. They'll say things like, I don't know what it is about you, but I feel safe here. Or, you remind me of something I can't explain. That's the frequency of someone who has turned their pain into presence. But don't think for a second this path gets easier. What it gets is clearer. You'll still face doubt. You'll still be tempted to collapse back into the old stories. But now you'll have the awareness to choose differently. You'll see the patterns before they repeat. You'll recognize false connections before they entangle you. And most of all, you'll stop sacrificing your soul to be understood. Because when you truly unlock the power in your pain, you realize that being misunderstood is part of your purpose. You're not here to be relatable, you're here to be transformational. And transformation, real transformation, is disruptive. It's not clean, it's not polite, it's messy, it's wild, it burns. But when it's done through soul-aligned power, it heals everything it touches. This is why your pain had to be specific. This is why you were forged in silence. This is why you couldn't fit in, no matter how hard you tried, because you were never meant to belong to the world as it is. You were meant to shape the world as it's becoming. And the only way to carry that kind of influence is to be unshakable. And the only way to become unshakable is to let every storm pass through you until all that remains is the truth. So let me ask you this, not from a place of performance, but from soul to soul. What have you been avoiding that's actually holding the key to your deepest power? Because once you stop avoiding it, once you finally lean in and listen, you'll realize you were never broken. You were always being built. When you finally accept your mission, the matrix starts to collapse. The moment you say yes, not out loud but in your soul, to the mission you were born for, reality begins to change. Not metaphorically, energetically. You start to notice it. Glitches in the pattern. People who once controlled you lose their grip. Situations that used to drain you dissolve. The things you once begged for begin to chase you. This isn't coincidence. This is energetic alignment, because the matrix, the energetic system built on illusion, fear and obedience, cannot hold you once you fully embody why you came here. Let's be clear, the matrix isn't just external, it lives in our thoughts, our trauma and our self-doubt. It's the voice that says, stay quiet, play small, don't speak truth, fit in. That voice kept you safe until it started suffocating you. And when you begin to truly walk in your power, not partially but fully, you start to see how much of your life was built to keep you asleep. That job, that relationship, that version of yourself, it wasn't wrong, it was a waiting room. But now, your name is being called. This is the tipping point for the dark chosen one, when you cross that invisible line and stop pretending you're like everyone else, when you stop asking for validation and start operating from knowing, not egoic knowing, soul knowing, the kind of knowing that doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence, clarity and conviction. You don't need to argue anymore. You don't need to explain your choices. You simply walk in your frequency, and the world either rises to meet it or falls away. This is where things get strange. In a good way, you'll speak what you feel, and others will say, "How did you know I needed to hear that?" You'll follow a nudge and end up in the exact place you were meant to be. You'll lose everything that kept you safe and gain everything that sets you free. This is the unraveling of false timelines. The matrix begins to collapse, first in small personal ways and then in collective ways. You're not just affecting your own life, you're affecting the people around you. You become a frequency disruptor, a consciousness detonator. But here's the truth they won't tell you. When you're really doing your mission, it's not glamorous, it's sacred. And sacred things are often invisible. You won't always get credit. You won't always be thanked. Sometimes the people you helped the most will ghost you. Sometimes you'll feel like no one sees the transformation you're holding space for, but that's the assignment. You weren't sent to be admired, you were sent to be effective. And you are, even when it doesn't feel like it. Your presence alone is collapsing the lie. Every time you speak your truth, the web of illusion weakens. Every time you say no to a false version of yourself, you break a spell. Every time you love with depth instead of manipulation, you rewire timelines. And every time you choose soul over strategy, the matrix loses power over you and over everyone watching. Because people are watching, even if they don't say it, you are showing them what's possible. You are walking proof that there is another way. And that's why the Matrix fears you. Not because it's dangerous, but because you're free. And a free soul inspires others to free themselves. So now you stand at the edge. You've heard the call. You've walked through the fire. You've seen what you are. The only question left is this: will you stay away? Because once you do, you won't need to chase your destiny. You'll realize you've become it,